What's happening, Sasquatch? My brother Chris,
Ew,
how you doing, man?
what is up, Dino? How you making out, man?
Man, I am doing good. I am excited about tonight's show, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And what makes this so awesome is this is show number 2, and we've
Hell
got
yeah.
our first guest coming on tonight.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for this one. You have no
Heck yeah.
idea I'm excited.
So I'll tell you what, Chris, I was looking around this
Uh,
week and I saw some images. I think I saw a picture of you and I
uh,
when we were a tag team in a former life. So I'm gonna pull this up here, and but I gotta know, Chris. I gotta know who is who.
I
Who's who?
mean, I'm tall like Hawk, but in reality, I'll probably be more like Animal.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I could between me and you, you're the high flyer of the two, so you have to be Hawk. I
All
can't.
right.
I can't fly up like that.
What a rush. I'm happy. I can be Hawk. I can do
Okay.
that,
All right.
and I'm fine with that. But you know what? I think they did us justice there. What do you think?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And you know what? They actually got my size head right too. That's the funny thing.
Right, right. So let me ask you this:
Yes, sir.
when LOD was around, do you still have your shoulder pads from the
I
days?
told you last week I wasn't an LOD guy. I'm a demolition guy. I'm not an LOD guy. I just,
Well,
if I can find it, I will wear my Pandas a Doom shirt. I have to find it. Today it's the
there we
Andre the
go.
Giant shirt, but I will have to break out my Pandas a Doom shirt very, very soon. So,
Gotcha, gotcha. So I'll tell you what, let's get some shout out. We got some people in here already.
oh hell yeah,
First up, we got Born Bearded. What's going on, man?
yo,
We have Retro Beards. We
what's
got Kay. What's going on, Kay? We got
up,
Ray
Chad?
Smokey, and Ray
Yo,
Smokey wants us to acknowledge him. So, you
absolutely.
know,
I
number
can't.
one
No,
from
you got to
day
point
one.
down. It's one of these. It just because he's tiny, so you got to point down. 'Cause if not, now you're going to cast a shadow, and then it's going to be like an eclipse.
We got Baker in here.
What a
What's going
bigger.
on, Baker? We got Bearded Death, and I gotta tell you, man, Bearded Death and you could make
Oh,
an awesome tag
you
team.
know
I
what?
met him yesterday, so
Nice
man, you
guy.
guys would be a fantastic tag team, man.
Yeah, nicest guy in the world.
Heck yeah. We got 30 Spray J, the Nothing King. What's going
What up,
on,
Jay?
brother?
What up, Jay? No, I will
Oh,
not say yeet. Absolutely not.
yeet.
You kidding? No,
I got it covered. I got it covered. All right. And let's see here. Baker says, what we got here?
no bigger.
Um, so, Dean, I heard you were told a story about me this weekend. Maybe I got to remember. It's been a long weekend.
What's
All
up,
right,
Lee?
we're caught up on that. But I found another funny picture, and I want you to tell me what you think about this one. I
Oh,
think it's
jeez.
I think it's kind of accurate. You know,
You know what? Sadly, I would watch that.
I would too. But I mean, whoever put this together, creative. I mean, dude, they've got it nailed right there. Braun
So
Breaker, Slater.
would it be Jade or would it be Bianca? That's Lisa, and then Ripley could play Jesse.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, Jade's my girl, but in that it would have to be Bianca. Bianca would pull her off better. Yeah, I think.
I could see that. So, but
Heck yeah.
that's freaking awesome. That's hilarious.
Heck yeah. When I saw that, I was dying laughing, man. I'm like, that is absolutely hilarious.
I wonder what Sammy thinks of that.
The Sammy one's pretty spot on, I
Oh,
would say,
100%.
out of all the three.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it. Yeah. The Zach one's not too far off either. But
Yeah, not too far off. So, my man,
sir,
we got this awesome guest, and I'll tell you
Mhm.
what. Why don't you? Because you guys are personal friends.
Yes.
He's around your area, right? He lives
Yeah,
around you, kind
yeah.
of.
He's out of Philly. Funny story. Me and this gentleman actually met through wrestling. Oddly enough, he is a cartoonist. He makes some fantastic art. You can't really see it, but I do have two pieces of his art: the Iron Sheik and the Macho Man above me right now. So number one, Iron number one. Yeah. He's also a big time wrestling lover. He makes Sid Vicious bow down because he rules the world. Let's bring on Nick Clark.
What's happening, Nick?
Hey guys, what's going
Man,
on?
having a fun time. Excited having you on here.
Absolutely. Thank you for
I got
being our
like,
first guest. I greatly appreciate it.
thank you, man. I'm super honored. I got to say though, I feel like the one other guy in ZZ Top right now.
Oh, compared to Dino over here, I feel like a little kid. All right, and then this will take me 10 years. All right.
Yeah. It's I was like looking in the mirror this morning, and I'm like, man, I got to trim up because I'm super scruffy, and I mean, but you guys got me.
Dude, I just hate shaving. That's all.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Same. That's why I have what I.
Well,
what I have.
if you want to let it go, let me know. I got some stuff for you. All right.
Heck
I hear you.
You got some awesome stuff for it. Heck yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
I know he does. He does.
We've got some art from you guys. I'm gonna pull up some art, and if you want to talk about your art, let's see here. Yeah,
cool.
So there we go.
Okay, so this is awesome that you brought that up first. So about a year ago, a little over a year ago, so there was a I don't want to get into like a downer type of situation, but there was a cartoonist who passed away under very tragic circumstances, and his name was Ed Piscor, and basically it was a cancel culture kind of situation. I don't want to get into a political thing about that and cancel culture, but it is what it was, and the community around a YouTube channel that he hosted, which was called Cartoonist Kayfabe, which you're going to hear that a lot, that word, and you're going to notice how everything kind of connects back to wrestling somehow with me. But it was a comic book channel, and they used kayfabe as you do in the wrestling world, where it was like we're pulling back the curtain and kind of taking a look at these comics, and it inspired a lot of people to pick up their pencils, and I was one of those people. And after this tragedy happened, a bunch of us, led by a gentleman named Brian Christopher Moss, got together and kind of formed a community which we called the K Fam, like short for family, and we started making comic books, and this was one of the first ones we did together. Nice. That's my cover art, and it's funny. Someone messaged me. Yes, well, not me, but in like the group chat that we have, was working a convention for Free Comic Book Day.
Nice.
Yesterday. They messaged in the group that someone came up and bought this comic, 3 copies of it, without even looking inside, based purely on the strength of the cover.
Nice.
So that's my goal, really. Like, I love making comics for myself, but what I want to do for other people, and as far as like hired work, like that's what I want to do. Nice. So that's basically like this is a riff on a Wolverine X-Men cover by an artist named John Romita Jr.
Nice.
Which the name of the X-Men comic kind of escapes me, but that's also part of my like deal, I guess, is almost every single piece of art you're going to see, aside from some of the wrestling stuff, is like all the comic stuff is like a riff on comic stuff that came before.
Right.
I'm very intently
right
trying to create like a feeling.
Gotcha.
Which I guess part of it is nostalgia,
Right.
where it's like, oh, I remember that, but you don't remember it because it never existed, but it
Right.
kind of did because it's based on something else.
So
that's what.
So I'm gonna pull up a couple more. We got this one, pretty cool, unique.
Yeah, I'm sorry that's blurry. I don't know what happened there. I had a high quality image and I must have sent you the wrong one when I sent those over. But
that's awesome.
But that's also cool too because I haven't actually shown this anywhere yet. Finished.
Wow.
Only people have seen it. And it's still not quite finished yet. But this is the cover for the next book that's coming out. Right now, the main project I'm working on is a magazine that I wanted to be every 3 months. But, you know, I work full time and stuff, and it's not, you know, sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's not. But I'm drawing it right now. It'll be out. I'll say I'm going to the printers this time next month. But that's the cover for the next issue. And basically, Slasher Magazine is it's half magazine stuff about a certain theme. Like this one's all rock and roll. The first issue was summer camp horror movies. Second issue was holiday horror movies. And then there's actual comics. The comic that is in the book is my original series that I just called Spooky Tales. Because titles are hard, man.
Don't you know it?
Yeah. No, but I think it's funny because it's you know, I'm not going to say like I came up with this and like after I thought of it, I was like, oh well, maybe, you know, like that whole nostalgia thing where someone sees something that says like Spooky Tales and then they're like, oh well, maybe that reminds me of scary stories to tell in the dark.
Right.
Or, you know, and essentially what I'm trying to do with that book is basically all the stuff I love just kind of put into a blender and told through like a kind of like goofy kind of horror supernatural kind of lens. Like, I don't know, like an Adult Swim television show meets like Friday the 13th series. If anybody Friday the 13th series, I know that's kind of obscure, but
sci-fi at its best right there, bud.
Here we go.
And this was just a book that I made when I started getting back into making comics again, and I made the first issue with Slasher. You know, you do things and you kind of get the bug. And I was like, you know what? Make another book right now. And I was like, well, I can't just make a comic right now. That it takes too much time. What do I have? And because I was kind of changing, not course, but there was about 3 years that was totally dominated by nothing but making pro wrestling art, whether it was for fun or t-shirt designs for wrestlers or flyers or 8x10 promos or whatever. And I kind of realized since I was going to be, you know, adding comics to things and that was going to be taking a lot more time, that it was probably like a kind of a bookend where I have 3 years worth of all this stuff. Let me take everything that I have, that like the best of all my stuff, and let me just put it in a book and kind of just explain myself. I guess. I always feel like I have to explain why I do what I do. I don't know why, but and then that's where this was born out of. And I think I'm going to get back around to doing like another issue of this, but it's actually going to be more of a magazine because I'm starting to realize that I think way too much about wrestling in order for me not to like try to like make money off of it somehow. But I don't want to do the traditional podcast route because there's a billion people, and I know there's somebody listening right now who's like, you're an idiot because you want to make a magazine in 2025. But
who reads? What? No.
It's like it's indie. It's, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get 10,000 people to subscribe to it. That's not my intent. That's not my aim. You know, I'm a realist. I'm just I'm just trying to do things that I love doing,
Right,
man.
right.
That's awesome.
Nick, if you could turn that magazine into an audiobook, then you'd be set.
Right. So we actually had the past couple weeks. We've had some interesting stuff happening in the wrestling world. But
I was
but
going to say,
before
where do
we
you want
go
to start
forward,
first?
though, all right, question: Hulk Hogan or Warrior Guy? Which one are you?
Warrior, absolutely. I don't have to say that with any hesitation, and it has all. Look, I don't like Hogan because of everything in 2025, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I never liked
Right.
Hogan. There's so many people. We were all little kids at one
Right.
point. We were all fascinated by the guy at one point. It was simply a timing thing
Right.
for me. When I was like caring enough, and I guess old enough, so around 7, 8 years old, to start like intently following the storylines and watching every
Right.
week. WrestleMania 8 was like the big thing when I was coming in, and that was supposed to be his last
Oh,
match.
okay. I was trying to figure out. I was trying to remember which one that one was.
Yep.
He was already pretty much on his way out.
Yep.
And then by the Warrior came back that night, and he didn't last that long. But by the time that year ended, the only people in that cup, like not in that cup, but like I was not worried about Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior. By that point, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were the two top guys.
Right.
Like Bret Hart was the champ. Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental champ. Those became my guys like almost immediately. And Razor Ramon came in. Yoko's like that whole crop that came in at the end of
Kevin Nash,
1992. Yeah, that was all from 92 to 93. That whole crop that came in. Like, yeah, I know 95 was really bad because Vince, I don't know why everybody just had to have an occupation.
You weren't a fan of the Goon, or which one was the one?
That's exactly mine.
Which one was it that dressed up like the baseball player?
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
MVP or something like
that. He had a whole bunch of. He had a guy that was a garbage truck guy.
Dumpster.
Yeah.
My personal favorite, and probably your guys's, was Isaac Yankem, DDS.
Yes, Kane.
Kane. Yeah, that was my personal favorite.
Yep. So if everybody can in the comments, everybody in the comments, let us know. Were you a Hogan guy or a Warrior guy? Let us know in the comments.
Again, I'm going on record. I was a Ted DiBiase guy, so forget both of
them. Oh man. Yep. But or you could be an Andre guy, like the Shooter one.
Yeah, I was a big Andre, just because I was bigger than everybody else, and he was like really the only giant that was around until Giant Gonzalez and that stiff came around. And still, but it is what it is with that. But yeah,
so here's the question of the day for you guys. So the big one that's catching a lot of heat right now is the whole John Cena situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory, and it's kind of like right now saying who's going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm going to give you my theory. I think the guy who's going to win the belt from John Cena and be the savior of WWE when it's finally time for it to happen, I'm betting it on R-Truth.
He is the true world champion. 57 times.
Well, if you think about it, how he always does the John Cena stuff and that, right? How hilarious. I would pay money to see R-Truth be the guy that finally ends up being the savior, beating John Cena.
He comes out and he does it by complete accident. He doesn't even know he's in the map.
Complete accident. Would be hilarious. But what do you guys think about the whole Cena's thing? Like how he's doing what he's trying to do and getting the heat and being a heel.
You know what? I think Jay sent me a video of him on Pat McAfee's show talking about he was taking the belt with him. To me, it just sounds like there's going to be a brand new belt altogether, and they're getting away from the heavyweight title and starting something brand new. That's what it sounds like. I might be wrong, but you know what? I can also see Braun Breaker winning the title because they got the rocket on that guy right now.
Yeah. It's kind of. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, Sorry. No, yeah, I think it's like the thing that was interesting the most to me is watching Cena work as a heel in the ring that night, because he was like, his character work during the match was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think what that I'm kind of indifferent to how the match ended,
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of what people are saying about why they don't like it is a lot of speculation. And I know with wrestling being what we're talking about, that's kind of what we trade in is speculation. But
Right.
we're it's okay for, I feel like it's okay for people like us because we're fans and we're not
Right.
claiming journalists,
Right.
and that's the problem. And like, we aren't there and we don't know what's going on. And do I think creatively, as a person who creates stories, that how night ended at WrestleMania 2 was kind of lackluster? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know why that decision was made.
Right.
And
Yeah, because there's because
the theories
I was
about
going to say because
all this, I just think it's kind of, I also think we're being worked, because I always think we're worked. And
Right.
I don't like, people are like, oh, Triple H spent an hour talking to the Hall of Fame and he didn't mention The Rock. And I was like, yeah. And then, because we're probably being worked. And I think this is ultimately going to lead to a power struggle storyline.
Yes.
Yeah, because they've already laid the groundwork where the Rock's
Right.
come out and said, "Hey, my whole part of it was done at Elimination Chamber." I was like, "No, yours was that's the beginning. How can your story be done at the beginning?"
Yeah, and that's the thing. I like, based on the reaction to that, and what he said to like what he responded to Dave LaGreca, and that comment that's on the bottom. That's my. I mean, I don't know about the specific timeline, but I think, I mean, ultimately it has to lead to Cody winning.
See,
It
I'm
has, like, just because of the way stories are told. It has to, like, Cody has to get revenge, and Cody has to beat the hell out of Travis Scott and The Rock.
I hope that's at Backlash, but it
It's
won't.
the natural, like, way for the
Right.
story to go.
Right. The only thing, like I agree with you, that's probably going to happen. I'm not a huge Cody fan.
That's fine.
But I think that's going to happen. But I don't know. I don't think Cody as a champion really generates that much excitement anymore, because I think he's getting a little stale. I think he was that guy that could run it for a little bit like he did, but I think there's got to be somebody else they got to pass it to. I think that his time, he got his belt, he did his thing. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not a big fan of him.
there's always the risk of the chase
Sure.
being
Sure.
better than the catch.
Sure.
I don't, again, I think, like, and I can't not think of things from like why, like, the creative lens of it.
Right.
And again, not knowing, not being in the room, but like,
Right.
I don't know if I could pin the responsibility of how Cody's championship looked post WrestleMania 40 on Cody.
Right.
I mean, these guys are given what they're given to work with.
Yep. Sure.
Now, I mean, if you're going to say he took what he was given and didn't really, that's a whole other, thing entirely. And then, that you're, but the other thing too about wrestling, and not pertaining to this conversation, but one of the big ones right now is entertainment versus athleticism.
Yes. Right.
And it all ties into me because, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's an art form, and you should be able to create that art form in the way that you want to express it. But you have to answer to somebody, and if you don't draw or make money,
right,
like, all right, cool, your stuff's great and it's artistically great, but you're not going to succeed.
Right.
And that's not me being like, it's about money. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about money for the wrestlers. It's about money for the promoters.
Right.
Which is why a bunch of people, and I'm not blaming the wrestlers, but a bunch of people got released today because WWE couldn't find a way to make money with them.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying those people can't make money as wrestlers, because I think they're all talented. But WWE couldn't find a way to make money with them. So
we had mentioned this last week. They have enough talent to actually put on a fourth show.
Yeah,
and we actually were talking about. I would love to see a women's show,
right?
Because they have enough talent between NXT and the main roster to actually be able to do that. Right. But the thing is, having 4 shows a week or 4 shows a week, that's a lot. That's a lot of wrestling.
Well, if you think, you think about a week of, let's just look at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Now, you're looking at SmackDown, Hall of Fame, NXT, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2, Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, and then whatever other things are happening, and people are like, "This is too much."
Yeah, exactly. It's way too much. And then even if you just expand from the WWE, juggernaut, if you put in ROH, TNA, New Japan, and AEW, and you try to watch all that, number one, I don't know what show is on what time. 99% of the time, outside of the two
some of them
bookends.
Know if I can without having to pay in addition.
Yeah, and then I watch a lot of highlights, and then I'll watch whatever pops up on my TikTok feed of reactors or people watching it. I have no problem doing that, but like 90% of the time, I'm like, I don't know what is on right now, and I'm like, okay. And if it's AEW, depending on who it is, 90% of the time, I'm not going to even come close to watching it because I don't care, because there's no storyline there. They just a bunch of people just doing a bunch of stuff because they want to do it.
The only thing that AEW has going for them is the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
Their women's division is fantastic.
100%. The Timeless is starting to slowly become my favorite wrestler.
Right. Timeless is going to be.
Awesome.
You imagine if Timeless now would come back to WWE with that gimmick, right? That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
It would, but I don't know if she would get over as much because she has more freedom on the mic.
Sure, but I mean,
the constraints of what you could say on regular TV.
Think about this: if they brought her onto Raw, which is on Netflix,
yeah, true,
she can do it, But the other one they got going for her is Megan Baines. Isn't that her name? Megan Baines.
Megan Baines is awesome.
Man, she is a powerhouse. I mean, imagine when she comes up to WWE, because that's going to be the eventual step for her, But they got fantastic. But going back to what you said, Nick, I think it's true is that WWE has so much talent that they can't keep them all busy.
Yep.
Exactly.
And now, a couple things that are going through my mind. You see Aleister Black back now, right?
Yep.
Is he going to be bringing the House of Black with him? Are they going to be eventually coming over? Is he going to lead the Wyatt Six? That's the other rumor. I mean, where's it all going?
That just died. They pimped it out as much as they could, and they haven't done anything with it for the last 3 months.
Right.
So again, it's all speculation, but Ricky Saints now.
What's up, Chris?
He's one. Aleister.
Right.
Brody King, Buddy Matthews,
Rusev.
These are all people who are. Well, Ricky was also very close with Cody Rhodes. But these are all people who are also really close with CM Punk.
Yeah.
Like, they're all friends with CM Punk.
Right.
And it's funny because I understand legal things where it's like you have to have things in contracts where people can't tamper with them.
Yeah.
Like, the promoter can't, like Tony Khan can't ask a WWE employee about their contract. But a WWE employee who is friends with an AEW employee, and they're just bullshitting on their free time.
Right.
Oh, hey, man. Oh, yeah. And then they go back to the office and they're like, hey, dude, this guy's contract's up in June. He's got a 30-day no compete. Like, and that's how you get around those things. I'm sure, and it's just gonna be. I don't see AEW going anywhere.
No, they're spinning their wheels.
The only thing that would make AEW go under is if whatever numbers TNT wants them to hit stop coming in, and Turner takes them off the air.
Yep.
And then maybe even not, because he'll go streaming or something because he's got the money.
And see, he does that now because isn't one of his shows on like HBO or Max or whatever it is?
Well, Dynamite is streaming at the same time on Max.
Yeah.
Well, Dynamite and Collision stream on Max at the same time as that they air.
Okay.
But like as far as the talent goes, like this company's going to be around for a minute, more than a minute, and you're going to see like, all right, Andrade was in WWE. He left. He came back.
Yeah.
Alistair went AEW, came back. It's going to be just like the 90s where it was like, British Bulldog left in 92. Did that whole Shockmaster deal with Sting in WCW. Came back in 94 to WWF.
Right.
Was there till about 98 when the whole, 97 when the screw job went down. Went to WCW, went back to WWF in 99. Like it's going to be that way for the next 10 years. People and probably longer. People going back and forth.
Yeah, see, the only difference is, unfortunately, all of us have, since everybody is a reporter online, nothing is secret anymore. So there's no more. Oh, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are going to appear out of nowhere. And what are they doing there? You don't get that anymore. You don't get that element of surprise.
Unless you try to stay away.
Yeah, but even then it's really hard. It's really hard.
Right. So let's talk about the whole CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns triangle here. What any thoughts or predictions on that whole thing?
I don't like to be like I called it, but the minute Seth Rollins was like, "Now you owe me a favor," I looked at my wife and I was like, "Well, Heyman's turning on both of those guys at Mania." Right. And that's exactly what happened. But no, I thought and I'm also not someone who if I think, like I said before, I think about this stuff way too much. So I do sit there and analyze and try to sometimes see where they're going to go with this.
Right.
If I get it right, that doesn't mean that I think they're predictable.
Right.
Because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, they're probably going to do this," and then it happens, and they're like, "Ah, man, that's so predictable." That's not. I'm just like, "Wow, I was right."
Right.
I just but back to the rumors and the dirt sheets and the spoilers. I try to consciously just let things play out, let myself be a fan. Right. If I want to sit there and analyze the ins and outs and how well somebody sold something, or how crisp that bump looked, I'll rewatch the match.
Mm-hmm.
But I for the most part, I just kind of want to be a fan.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sometimes I think what's
going to be interesting.
I'll be like, why? And then I'll start trying to put it together in my head as it happened. But
so who do you guys think is going to be who do you guys think is going to be the next member with Seth and Ron Breakker? Who do you think they're bringing in? Because I know they said there's more members coming.
Right.
I personally, I was going to say, if they do bring somebody in, I want to see Carmelo Hayes. I would love it, because they're not. Because I think last time I saw him, I think he was with the Miz or something, doing something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have this talent, a great talent at that. He's the next one. I could see that, because you kind of need a high flyer. You know what I mean?
Right. So, you know, it's interesting you say that, because if you look at what's happening on NXT with his old partner Trick Williams, Trick Williams starting to get that heel push. Yeah. And I could see him coming up and getting back with Carmelo, and maybe them joining up,
Yeah.
So this might seem obvious, because I'm thinking of Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah.
But I think they need a woman. And this seems double obvious, but it can't be a coincidence that Seth Rollins' wife just turned heel too.
Right. Which, by the way, is it just me, or is her heel work, the way she's on the mic, absolutely garbage? I don't.
I liked it when he was doing the kind of like showy Ric Flair big time best thing.
But like
I like
it's
that.
just she it just there when that Raw, I can't talk apparently at all. That Raw when she finally officially became a heel, it hurt. I'm watching this. I'm like, just stop. You're talking too much. Stop.
Yeah. Someone in the comments just mentioned carrying Cross, and I think that would be perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because he needs it.
Yeah.
Not that he's great, and he needs that platform. I don't know if you guys saw that little work shoot interview thing he did the day after. Like that, and you don't have to just see that, but you can see that dude in the ring. Little subtle thing.
I just watched that documentary he put out, Killer Cross, I think it was on. I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, I didn't watch that yet, but it just came across my YouTube.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Right. Yeah, it'd be exciting to actually see him get a decent push in a spot where he could do stuff.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah. So what do you guys think is going to happen? So I heard a rumor. Is it true that Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner said that he would be in the corner of Pat McAfee? So I've heard a couple rumors about this whole situation, right? I heard that rumor that supposedly he's going to be in the corner. And the other rumor that I heard, as much of a fan of this guy I am, I hope it's not true, but I heard that Goldberg is going to come back and fight Gunter. And I'm like, as much as I love Goldberg, I remember him back in the WCW street days. That's when I liked him. And now you're looking at it like, I hope they're not bringing him back to do this because it doesn't really do anything for anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I've been hearing rumblings about this, and I started trying to connect the pieces.
Right.
And I think, I don't, again, not knowing what's going on, I think there's a valid reason, not for it happening, but I think there's a valid reason for people thinking this.
Right.
So the McAfee thing with Steiner apparently is legit.
Yeah.
There have been tweets back and forth with Steiner. So that's actually happening.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody remembers, but was it last year or the year before? Gunther was cutting a promo in the ring, and Goldberg was in.
He was in the audience, and he said something about his kid or something.
I'm not saying better, but he basically cut a promo on Goldberg, and I know Goldberg has been lobbying for the past 3 years about a retirement match. Yeah. I'm thinking these things are being put together. Right. The only way this serves anybody is if he comes in and Gunther beats the absolute piss out of him.
Yep.
Because that's the traditional wrestling thing. You're on your way out while you're doing the honors for somebody.
Right.
Right. Which is what, if you were going to end the streak, you should have done it to somebody who needed to be made into a beast and a legend, and not somebody who already had the reputation like Brock Lesnar.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I really, to be honest with that, I do not want to see Goldberg. I understand you have a couple, months, a year or whatever to get yourself in shape. But if it's going to end up like it was with the Undertaker match, and it's just going to be painful to watch an old man, even though he's probably in shape, watch an old man try to wrestle, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not
right.
And I've read interviews with a bunch of the guys that are in that get into that position where they're coming in maybe once or twice a year. And they say not only is it a lot more hard, it's a lot harder on your body because you're just not calloused up from doing it all the time.
Up and down. Yep.
Yeah, but also the work that you have to do to get yourself in the shape to go even put on the match is apparently it's a nightmare. Goldberg even said the worst part about doing this nowadays is having to get in the shape as to try to approximate how I looked when I was in my guy in his 50s.
Right.
Damn near impossible.
Right.
Unless you're, doing, PEDs or whatever, But that, that's not, I'm not even trying to imply that, but it's hard, man. It's hard work.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think about Jimmy Uso? Who's gonna be coming after Jimmy Uso? Who do you think?
It's
Just trying to think who's on the roster right now.
So he got interrupted last week by Logan Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I'm guessing that's going to be his first like opponent at Backlash next week. I don't know. It's crazy. The Backlash is next week.
Right.
But
speaking of which, July there is like 4 PLEs like big time shows going on apparently on WWE. But sorry, that was besides the point.
Oh yeah, no, there's. Well, I know in June there's the AAA co-produced show.
Yeah. So
Right.
there's a pay-per-view. There's like a Saturday main events, and then there's like 2 pay-per-views in July for some reason.
Wow.
I think so.
They're always going to be pay-per-views in my head. They're not PLEs. They're pay-per-views.
So
no, yeah.
you know, I'm like not really. So I'll put it this way: I think Logan Paul does a good job at catching heat. Logan Paul, because he's good at being a bad guy, because he
100%.
can get instant heat. And you know, I'm not a Logan Paul fan of his wrestling character, but if you look at what he does and how he gets the heat, and the dude's athletic, man. Like,
I'll
give him that. Absolutely.
And the guy's awesome on the mic. He can talk. So, I mean, as much as I dislike his character, I think he's kind of that needed guy. You have to have that guy around because he can generate the heat. He knows how to talk.
Oh, yeah.
He knows how to work. And do you find it kind of crazy? It's almost like he's more wise than years he has in, because he knows how to work that crowd and get them going, you know, and so.
No, yeah, he's very good at all that. I think, and again, like it's not so. I don't think there's anything where, like, I don't like to say people, you know, don't have a place or anything. It's not my place to tell people they don't have a place.
Right.
But the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way about him is that he comes across outside of, like, off screen when he's talking about this job, not his other stuff, when he's talking about his wrestling work,
right,
and like just the ins and outs of it, and his interactions with other people in the business. He seems like somebody who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Part of my language.
Yeah.
Just, and again, you know, speculation, but
right.
Seeing that this person offered Stone Cold Steve Austin $1 million for Stone Cold Steve Austin, the biggest badass who's ever been presented as a badass in wrestling, to dress up as a prime model at WrestleMania, tells me that you have no idea about anything about character presentation or ring psychology when it comes to wrestling. He might know how to do him.
Right.
But for him to think that was something that he should even ask Steve Austin to do shows me he has no fundamental understanding of wrestling psychology.
You know, though, you gotta wonder, though, is that still kayfabe? Is he just doing that to kind of project an image? Because, I mean, here's my thing with him, with everything he does. I mean, you look at what him and his brother do, right? Everything they stick their name on makes big money, because they have this way about them. And sometimes when you hear him talk about stuff like that, you're like, was he really being serious, or was he just saying stuff to draw heat on it? You know what I mean? To make him look a certain way, you know?
And that's part of the problem with 2025, and not just with Logan Paul, but in the world in general, is that I don't know who's trolling me anymore.
Right.
Because so many people are just doing it to do it. Now, if he's doing it as part, if he's kayfabe about that stuff, then, like, you know what? I will tip my hat to that dude and be like, you know, dude, go ahead, make your money.
Right.
But the impression, and then Kevin Nash also said too, like, Kevin Nash was like, he's not one of the boys.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna take Kevin Nash's word over.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like.
Well, I mean,
like,
when you look at it, I mean, obviously, I don't think he's even trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes about being one of the boys. He knows he's not. Everybody knows that he's not, and
Right.
they've made that point from day one with him, being the outsider. But I think that if they would have tried to bring him in a different way and make him be like, oh, this is one of the guys, he went through wrestling camp or whatever, I don't think it could have been pulled off. I think the way they did it with him just coming out, being that egotistical Logan Paul that he can be, I think that's
Oh
the
no,
only
that
way.
that makes perfect. Yeah, because like that's the whole thing. Like that's basically his character.
Right,
So it makes sense for him, and it's perfect for his character to basically like jump the line. And
right,
that's the thing too. I have no resentment for any of that.
right, right,
People get mad as fans about part timers or celebrities are coming in and taking somebody's spot. Okay, well, if Mr. T didn't take somebody's spot, we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So
Well,
like, and you know what? Mr. T loved wrestling,
Yeah,
so
and
who
it's
cares?
it's the it's the point where you gotta realize, hey, this is still entertainment. Yes,
right,
there's like he's extremely athletic, but you know what? He also
right,
puts faces on TV because they
What
want
I
to
was,
right,
watch
which is
because they
what we
hate
were
him so
about.
much they actually want to watch him.
Like
right,
for me at least, with when it comes to the like entertainment, there's that saying like the intersection of art and commerce. Wrestling is like the perfect example of that.
Exactly.
right,
Exactly.
right,
Because when you figure out how to get right in the middle of that intersection is when you make the most money.
Yep.
right,
Perfect example
Look,
is Stone Cold. Stone Cold
I'm
back in the '90s,
literally
he
going to
was
bring him
that
up.
guy because you had people that didn't never watch wrestling wanting to be Stone Cold because what he was doing to his boss,
Now,
and at the
now
same time, the
let me ask you
diehards.
this too. If you look at Steve Austin pre the neck injury,
Yes.
yeah, yep,
and not even the Stone Cold, look at Steve Austin from Ringmaster prior,
Okay.
yep,
and how he
Hollywood
presented
one.
himself as a wrestler.
Yep.
yep,
Now the injury had a lot to do with it, but the minute he stopped making it about the moves
right,
and started making it about just beating the shit out of people and being a badass,
right, right,
well, look what happened. And we
boom,
all like everybody in our general age group, not everybody, but
mhm,
there's a good chunk of us who swear by the
right,
Attitude Era.
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
And I love the Attitude Era. But when people are like, "Oh, that was the best for everything," I ask them to name me a match. They can never name me a match.
Nope.
But they can name me like, Mae Young giving birth to the hand, or they can name Mankind getting thrown off of the cell, like they name that match,
right,
but they don't talk about the match. They talk about that part.
Yep.
right,
They,
right,
they talk about more the entertainment wise than what it was actually going
Everybody
on.
talks
right,
about the
right,
situation.
Exactly.
Steve,
And when Stone Cold threw the Rock's belt over the bridge in Cleveland,
that's
right,
literally exactly. It's when when your pager comes up 316, and then later in the night, The Rock has the pager and it says 316, and he looks down at it, and then here comes Steve Austin with like a friggin' pickup truck or something, and I'm always
right,
Titantron. Like those are the moments people remember, and you
right,
can't have the match that they eventually go on to have at WrestleMania without all those moments.
right,
Otherwise, it's an
right,
athletic contest, which there's nothing wrong with. But
right,
when you have just pure athleticism,
right,
you're going to find out in a few months when Hogan and Bischoff have that new venture they're working
yeah,
on,
yeah, that's
and everybody's going to see why this doesn't
Well,
make money.
yeah, actually, they were on like Good Morning America or
yeah,
something just recently. It's not regular. It's not entertainment wrestling. It
It's
is
catch wrestling, yeah,
Greco-Roman wrestling
yeah. It's
crap.
right,
like
It's
dudes in
not crap.
singlets with the headgear and stuff,
Yeah,
right, right,
and it, like that stuff's awesome.
yeah,
It's
it's awesome, but
great. Like
not gonna
actually
make any
watching
money.
amateur style wrestling is entertaining, but
right,
I don't see for me for him to be bigger than WWE
right,
where we get to that point where they would sell out, ships always sell out.
Yeah,
right,
But You know, they're not.
When was the last time outside of Gardner you can name me a actual wrestler? You know, I can't name you him and Kurt
And,
Angle and Sheldon
and I
Benjamin.
yeah,
You know?
and I don't know any of them unless they are
America Grande.
Or that Stevenson kid, that Gable Stevenson kid, who
Right.
WWE had
Yeah.
for a
Right.
minute. But and that's the thing, I only know
Right.
about him because of WWE. So
Exactly.
Right. Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned the athleticism because there are like, so, you know, when you look at some of these ones that have come in that have had extremely, you could tell they're athletic in that, but you're like, there's no personality and there's no showmanship. Like, you know what I mean? So, and then here's a kind of a follow-up question. Have you noticed that I've seen people come from AEW who started AEW come to WWE, and it looks like their timing is completely off. Like when they get into the WWE ring, it's like they don't know what to do, you know? So perfect example. Look at Jade Cargill. If you look at Jade's matches in AEW, her timing was a little bit better. She didn't have that problem. She gets up to WWE, and all of a sudden it's like she's never wrestled before. You're like, why is she stiff? Why can't she move? Like in AEW, she was moving. So is there like, I guess what I'm saying is there a difference in format, like how they do things, like in AEW compared to WWE, as far as how they do things in matches, as far as the flow? Is that
okay,
something that messes people up, or?
I had a conversation with someone in the business, and I don't name drop
Yeah,
because you know,
right,
but I had a
right.
conversation with someone who works. They're not a wrestler. They're an
Mhm.
announcer, and we had a conversation about someone who recently, well, not recently, who spent some time in AEW, and there was TV time.
Right,
Like the person was very talented. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. They're down in WWE and they're kind of thriving. And I asked this person, like, hey, so, because he was like, oh, yeah, we talk a lot. I said, so, like, can you explain what, like, how, you know, people saw what they saw in him in WWE and were able to bring that out of him?
right.
And that didn't happen. And basically, like, the answer he gave me was, well, that's the difference when people are producing your matches and your character, as opposed to here's your match, go out
Mm,
there, you got 8
okay,
minutes.
gotcha.
So, and again, you know, this is just something I heard in a conversation. So I'm led to believe that they're probably given how much time they have for their match. They're probably given the finish, and if there's anything important that needs to happen to further along whatever storyline they're going to use.
Right,
But other than that, these people are left to their own
Yep.
devices.
right.
And this is why
And
you end up with Chris Jericho, being Chris Jericho.
yeah, but it's the thing too. If you look at Jade in AEW, there were and I will say this about
Sure.
Tony, Tony booking of Jade Cargill was some of the smartest booking he's done in that entire company.
Right.
Because there were very few examples, and she was what, like 70 something before she started losing.
Yeah,
70 something matches,
right,
and she only had the 2 matches she lost before she dipped out.
right,
So like there were very few matches that she had where she was put with someone who wasn't going to be able to guide her and
right.
kind of lead her in the
Sure,
ring.
sure.
Then but the ones that weren't veterans that she was put in with, you could kind of tell that
Right.
like. And there were some things. There's always, I've noticed lately that when there's a huge height difference between people, sometimes there's just things just don't look as good
Right.
as they
Right.
do otherwise.
Right.
And that's happened with her a lot. But yeah, I think there's basically like over in AEW, it seems like you're you're left to be yourself, and you're kind of taught a style in WWE.
Right.
You're taught the TV style. You know You know what I mean?
Right. And I don't know if that injury, not the television injury, but I don't know if she was written off with that car deal with Naomi because she had an injury.
Right.
But she was on TV.
Right.
Then she wasn't. Right. She just got back. How much time? And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's just like how much time. If she was injured, did she get a lot of time to train after rehab? Like, how often is she down at the Performance Center? She lives in Florida, so and that's another thing that's a whole thing with the difference between WWE and AEW is that these NXT kids have a place that they have to go to work to every day and do all that stuff constantly and learn it. And AEW, it's like they don't do any house shows.
Right.
They do no live events. It's your Wednesdays and your Saturdays unless they're taping like on a Thursday or something.
And they're just straight bringing guys up from the indies that don't have that experience dash or wrestle on TV. It's a lot different, I would say it's a lot different wrestling from 150 in front of 150 people to a sellout crowd, but we really know it's 150 people to about 1,500 people.
Right.
So it's
even when there are things when I was at the Monster Factory and they wanted to do like they would have 5-minute matches and like Steve wasn't there that night and Danny would have me put on a ref shirt. There were so many instances, and it's not a show, it's training, but there were so many instances where Danny would be like, yo, move 3 feet to the right, because if you were doing that on TV, your ass would be in the camera and nobody could look at the wrestlers. And that's not even something I was even conscious of.
Right.
So to go from like not working that way and being thrown right into it has to be difficult, I would imagine.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're right too, because I think the big mistake that WWE made with Jade was they brought her in. I really believe they should have sent her to NXT. They should have had her. They should have worked with her. I think what they were thinking was if she teamed with Bianca enough that Bianca was going to kind of like get her up to par. I think, my personal opinion, she didn't get injured. I think they looked and said, listen, you're going to go get some training for a couple months, because when she came back, she's moving better, more fluid. She's not as stiff. Now, do I think she's at the level where everybody should be like, hey, she should be world champion? No, she still needs to put some more time in to get that movement and be fluid. But I think sometimes, because she was such a huge thing in AEW, when they got her, they're like, she's hot, let's just push her. And I don't think they spent that quality time like they should have with her and really, made her shine. Where now I think they're like, okay, she's got to put some time in, get better movement. And, maybe working with Naomi, going against Naomi a bunch of times, or what she's doing, maybe that'll refine her some. But that's what I think is sometimes they push people too fast and they don't let them, master the craft of what they need to in that situation.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you look at some of the and I'm not knocking them, but poor Jey Uso.
Yeah.
The I hope that dude doesn't read social media stuff, because some of the takes that people have, because like again, art and commerce, like. And, take away the whole kayfabe aspect and just look at it at like a business standpoint. If you had the choice to put a belt on that guy right now, and you don't take it, you're not getting that choice. And that was literally like everything worked out perfectly for that. And you know what? He's probably going to have a good 3 to 6 month run with the title, and then that'll be it.
The thing is, like, his brother would have, if it wasn't for him being arrested so many times, his brother would be in that same exact spot, to be honest with you. His brother is the better of the two wrestlers. And,
well, yeah, there you go. But it's but to bring it back to the whole Jade thing, it's like, all right, is Jade the most technically proficient wrestler? No. But is Jade? No, but look at Jade. Jade looks like $1 million. How do you not? How do you not look at her and immediately not put her on TV?
Right.
Because look at it.
Jim Ross used to state it the best. It's all about putting asses in the seats, right? And if you've got a gimmick, if you've got a look, if you are good on the mic, whatever it is, I hate to say this because it's wrestling, but it's kind of like that's the second part of it. You can be the most, like we talked, you can be the best proficient wrestler out there, most skilled, but if you're not bringing something different to the table or a certain look, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Well, I mean, how did we start tonight? Right. I started by saying I was a Warrior guy.
Right.
Warrior is notorious for being one of the worst technically proficient wrestlers ever.
Right.
But look at the dude.
Right.
How do you come up with that? How do you have somebody that looks like that and not put him on TV? And as like a 6-year-old, how do you see that and not instantly be like just amazed?
Right.
Like that's that's especially when you're looking at WWE and it is about quote unquote sports entertainment. Right. That's what it's about.
Right.
Like all these things happen, like the Daniel Bryan situation in 10 or 11 years ago. The same, like everybody thought that they worked WWE, but WWE worked everybody else, and it was because he was making money.
And you know what?
Those fingers.
You can say that now about Penta. Penta now is, unfortunately, he's become a meme, but a hilarious one because of the dance. He has a gimmick now. Right. He's going to draw money.
No, yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. And again, there you go. Like, back to the whole production versus just let's throw them to the wolves and see how they do.
Right.
Look at every single person who came over in the past 2 years, 3 years. Right. Look at Cody, look at Punk, look at Jade Cargill, look at Penta, look at Aleister Black, who for the past year was getting dragged online by all these kids who thought they knew what they were talking about because he doesn't want to lose matches. And he put on a half-hour match the other night where he actually had a competitive match with the Miz.
Right.
And made the Miz look so good that like this is the guy you said was afraid to lose.
Right.
He gave the Miz like 10 minutes of offense in that match.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, if he was afraid to lose, don't you think he'd come in and be like, "Nah, I'm squashing him. It's the fucking Miz. I'm part of
exactly.
My
Exactly.
But and that's not a knock on the Miz, but that's kind of that role that he's filled is where like someone comes in and just decimates him really quickly. But he had a full on legit like wrestling contest with the Miz.
Yep.
And he spent the last year getting dragged online by people, and it goes to show we don't know the situation.
So what do you?
Or who knows? Maybe they wanted the House of Black to lose to the Young Bucks, and if that was the case, I would have told them no too.
So what do you guys think about the Dirty Dom situation, being the champion and with Finn and Judgment Day?
I didn't see the face turn coming. Like at all, because like I personally wanted to be honest with you, I wanted to see Vicky Guerrero with him, because then that heat would have just went up to here.
That would have
that would have because I was at a show about a month ago or whatever when SmackDown came to Philly when SmackDown he did the dark match and the boos are crazy, but you put Vicky Guerrero with that would have been out of this world.
Right.
But I did not see the face, and I don't think WWE saw the face turn coming either at all.
Right.
That was like, so now they got to do that on the fly, which makes sense because you could still make Finn the bad guy in that situation without a problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, he's been like doing fantastic work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Between the mustache and the mullet, I mean, you can't go wrong,
Yeah, and I mean, Finn has now too recently. Yeah. Like Finn has been doing fantastic work since he turned heel. So like it's a perfect heel for Dominic to go up against.
Exactly.
What do you guys think though? What do you think the longevity of Judgment Day is going to be? I kind of see maybe
they're done.
It's done. And then you got
Yeah, I think it's
yeah, I
close
think
to it.
so too.
See, I just feel bad for Carlito because he has to take all this crap. He has to
Right.
get sawed in half every week, and for what? For what? For what? Now that his group is done, I
Yeah.
mean, he
Right.
doesn't really wrestle
And
that
it's so
much.
funny, and the veteran should never be the
No,
bum
absolutely
guy.
not.
Right. Right. Right.
Like when like the Shield first started, they were going to be the guy, Punk,
Right.
Yeah,
and it was like, yeah, they're all set. Poor Carlito's getting by Braun Breaker,
exactly.
literally getting sawed in half, like you said.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like I said, that out of them all because Liv and Raquel are going to do their own thing, which is fine.
Right.
JD
Right.
just now came back from that horrific injury, which I thought, like,
Yeah.
legitimately, I thought he died. But yeah, like, then I don't know what they're going to do with him because he's just going to flounder now.
Right.
And like I said, I just feel bad for Carlito. Man. You bring him
Right.
back, and for what? Now he really doesn't have much to do now.
Well,
Right.
I think I think JD will be cool because JD and Finn are like actual like really close friends in real life,
Yeah.
and I think he'll probably stick around.
Right. What about this too? I've been kind of looking at stuff, seeing as how they put Naomi and Nia together. Would you guys kind of think it'd be interesting if they kind of came out with a female bloodline? Since I mean they are technically family related on the Samoan tree, right?
That might be a seed they're planting for that.
I mean that there is a female tag team Samoan tag team out there.
Yeah,
And they look kind of badass. They have the tattoos and all, face tattoos
Right.
and all. They
yeah.
look kind of badass. But to be honest with you, the bloodline thing is kind of played out. If they haven't done it already,
Well, I mean, maybe
just
making another female faction because
maybe.
at first when I saw Naomi's new thing, right, I was like, it's kind of weird. But now you kind of look at it like, I mean, her character coming along, it could be an interesting character how she's doing stuff. Might be some
Oh yeah,
longevity
absolutely.
there for her. And then who knows?
Oh no,
Because I think he froze up. Almost there, he froze. But what if because I mean what's coming. Bianca Belair is almost to that complete heel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You saw it before
Right.
Before Mania. She started to turn.
Right. So you
just
never
a matter
know.
of-
Maybe her and Nia and Naomi.
Maybe. But then the question is, like, how many faces do you guys actually have on the women's division? There's not too many. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You got to have that balance.
yeah.
Right.
Hopefully, you know.
Right.
And with the people that they just let go just recently,
Right.
that just really hurts. You know.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the future of Charlotte Flair is after Mania?
She's done.
Yeah.
I think she's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to think about. Well, not hard, but it's funny to think about where, like, she's really been doing this at such a high level for 10 years now.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Right.
And if she doesn't just decide she's going to retire at this point,
right?
I would imagine, I would imagine she would spend some time, like, I would hope she would spend some time giving back and putting these girls over.
Right.
With Tiffany and Rhea a couple.
Yeah. Right. Right. So here's my last question for the night because we're coming up on almost the hour and 10-minute point.
Yeah.
Get your guys' opinion on this. A dream match that I always wanted to see, but it always seemed like the timing was never right and they could never get it put together. And what you guys are thinking, who do you think would win? Take yourself back about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
Sting versus Undertaker.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so you're talking about Crow Sting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Crow Sting, we're talking back in the prime when we still had the WCW thing going. Everybody always wanted to be like, hey, we got to see Sting versus Undertaker. Let's make this match happen. Technically, if you think back, way back in the day, which nobody remembers, Sting, Surfer Boy Sting, fought Mean Mark Callis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that match actually kind of happened, but not happened. But if you could take Crow Sting versus full on Undertaker and have that match, how do you think that would have went? What do you think the outcome would have been?
Go ahead, Nick. That's all you, bud. I got my answer. So,
that's tough because, like, I automatically think of like just the real world booking situation.
Yeah,
and
right.
how much nightmare that would have been.
Right,
Because you
right.
had Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon trying to compromise here. And this is tough because, like, whoever, maybe they're that, like, you look at Hogan and Warrior, WrestleMania 6.
Right.
As far as Hogan's character is concerned, losing to the Ultimate Warrior didn't really do him any damage.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, he lost to the Warrior, he's a has-been. No, so, like, I guess for me, it would come down to preference. And this is kind of tough. So, like, here's the thing. I like realistic stuff. And I have nothing but respect for The Undertaker. I have nothing but respect for his body of work. But even as a kid, when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, when dudes started shooting lightning out of their hands.
Right.
And the thing is, The Crow, the movie and the comic book changed my life.
Right.
And as cool as the NWO was, I was still very firmly a WWE guy. Until Sting started rocking that Crow face paint.
Yeah.
And then I converted. Not like, oh, I wasn't done with WWE, but I was like, oh no, this is must watch television.
Right.
Exactly.
And as cool as the streak was, as cool as a lot of the Undertaker storylines were, like 97 with the whole Kane thing, awesome.
Yep.
And I know people want to talk about the whole Starrcade thing, kind of screwed it all up, but like one of the greatest storylines ever in the history of wrestling is the story of how the NWO turned Sting into the Crow.
Exactly.
Because he thought that Sting turned on WCW, and then he just hung out and didn't say a word for a year. And and was just watching.
Exactly.
It was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. It took it out of like that 95, like the dentist.
Yep.
It like one of the things I say about the era before the era we're in now, which everybody calls the PP era. You know, should cringe if they hear two adults who want to fight each other tell each other they're going to kick their butt. If I hear an adult threaten me and say the word butt, like I'm going to kick your butt, I'm going to laugh in their face. No adult.
Yeah, I would too. 100% I would.
Right.
And that is what the NWO and kind of, and then Vince took what ECW was doing, and then just turned that up to like 32. Because I mean, as extreme as ECW was, there was never an angle where John Bobbitt had to save a porn star from getting castrated. People want to talk about how hardcore ECW was, but I mean,
that's hilarious.
Right.
That's funny.
But at the end of the day, I would have to say Sting. Like I would pick Sting to win that match.
Yeah.
If I had the book, I would have Sting win that match. Because
You know
especially if you're if you're going 98, 99, and Undertaker was like pure evil at that point, and like kidnapping the boss's daughter and trying to crucify her, then like the good guy has to win that match. Come on,
Right.
like Sting's the avenging angel, and like Undertaker was literally Satan at that time.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly what I would have said. Exactly. Sting, even though I would have loved to see this match in general, and Vince would have pushed really hard for Taker to win because it's Taker.
Right.
Don't lose the, Taker doesn't lose. Nah,
Yeah.
Sting would have won this, and I would have loved to see a 2 out of 3 type of match. Like that. You would have to have, you would have to have a series of matches, but Sting would come out overall.
So it's funny you say that. Can you imagine if you could have had it where Surfer Boy Sting goes up against original Undertaker, then you have Crow Sting go up against evil Undertaker, and then you have Wolfpack Sting
go against
American Badass.
That
would work.
Like, see, and that could have been done
10
years ago.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a huge Sting fan. I love Undertaker too, don't get me wrong, but I think the reason why I always wanted to root for Sting to win is because that dude was just like the epitome, man. He stuck around, he was the man, and he did a lot of cool stuff. And who doesn't like Sting, right? Sting's the man,
Exactly.
But it was kind of disappointing when they brought him to WWE, and then the Triple H match.
Yeah,
I was like,
AEW is
100%.
Yeah, they did.
The person they did treat right.
Right. What's the word on his son? I heard his son is full wrestle training, and he Sting's son is.
No idea. To be honest with you, no idea. I didn't even know his son was a wrestler. To be honest with you, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I heard
they did that one match
after the retirement match, and I didn't hear anything else. But I would hope that
I believe the son that dressed up as the red face Sting, the NWO Wolfpack Sting for that match, he's the one that is currently going through wrestling training.
Sting, yeah.
Oh
wow. Yeah, Wolfpack Sting. He's the one that dressed up as Wolfpack Sting is the one that's going through the wrestling training. So, yeah,
that's crazy.
So maybe we have a second generation of Stinger.
Maybe.
That might be cool, right?
Would it be Stung then? It's Sting, pre-Sting.
Right.
But this is a blast, man. We need to do this again.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Definitely, absolutely.
So, would definitely love to have you come on anytime, Nick.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, you know what? When your comic book is about to drop, let us know, and then we'll have you back on there.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man.
Cool. Right.
Cool. Awesome.
Before we leave out of here, so just to let everybody watch and whoever is watch in the future, if somebody wanted to get some artwork done from you, let's say commission some. So for example, I'm Tactical Santa. If I said, "Hey Nick, I want you to do some artwork for me," is that something that people can reach out and have you commission you to do, or do you do type of work like that? Or
yeah, absolutely. My inbox is always open for commissions. What's that? Oh, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. My connection just got lost. You guys there?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear us?
We're here.
I think he's.
You there?
Oh, we made it this far. No.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
I'm here. You guys hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of choppy, but all right. All right. Cool. No, yeah, my inbox is always open for commissions. Hit me up on Instagram, WrestlePop721. Patreon, you can go and subscribe to Slasher Magazine. Patreon.com/WrestlePop. Everything's WrestlePop. And you can buy individual books through, I always say Kofi because that's how it's spelled. And I think Kofi Kingston, but apparently it's coffee, but it's coffee.com/WrestlePop, but it's ko-fi.com. And yeah, I'm going to be putting prints because, you know, I've drawn a bunch of 8x10 wrestlers and stuff like that, and I just haven't gotten around to putting them up on the store, but they're going to be up there. I'm doing a couple 11x17s, and I do commissions and stuff, and my rates vary depending on what it is you want, but I'm fairly cheap.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So,
he does.
so yeah,
he does some fantastic work. I've seen his work in person. I love it to death. You know, I bought some of it. So
yeah,
You know what we got to do.
the only thing I can guarantee is that I'm the only thing I can guarantee you is that I'm going to work my ass off to give you an awesome piece, and that you are going to feel like you spent every penny, like wisely.
You know.
You will never get a bad.
Well, we'll have to commission him, Chris, to do a Suplex Syndicate one with you and I as wrestlers or something.
oh, absolutely,
That would
absolutely,
be fun.
Oh, I could
absolutely,
bro. I could absolutely.
Heck yeah, that would be some fun stuff, man. Well, like I said, Nick, dude, listen, number one from day one, because you're the first guest that we've had on the show.
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
are a third NWO member. Yes,
That's right. Because it's for life. But thanks for coming on.
I'm gonna give myself a back Harwood's pat on the back.
Thanks for coming on, man, and we're definitely gonna have you. We're definitely going to have you on here again. For everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this on a replay, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate all the support. Once again, we'll be on next week, Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like and subscribe to this channel so you can see more of us on here talking about your favorite stuff. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Nothing but much love and respect. And have an awesome rest of your weekend.